Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Yes, let me welcome you to the annual CBC Foundation's Homeland Security Business Diversity Roundtable. This is an annual event that we put on trying to create opportunities for small minority-owned businesses in the Homeland Security space. It's not a sexy topic. It's not one where you can stand on the table. It's not one where you can turn the table over. It's not one where you can talk about the dynamic speeches that were presented and all that. But this is the nuts and bolts kind of how you get prepared to do business. As a member of Congress, I'm always confronted with this notion that I can't get government to help my small business, even though there are small business programs available. Well, we have a stellar panel for you today who understand the challenge and have been in the vineyard long enough to try to help companies figure it out if they are tolerant and not in too big a hurry. Is that a good way to put it? Okay, all right. So the notion is we are firmly committed to making a difference, but that challenge is always what staying power those small businesses have. My experience has been usually when that business shows up, they're already on the water. And that's the difficulty is you don't have access to capital and all that because you're on the water. And then when you say, well, you need to look for a partner or something like that, they said, but I created this business. You just have to change your business model if you want to stay in business. So that's my formal part. Now, this is 9/11. This department was created after the events of 18 years ago, which changed the trajectory of this country. For the most part, some of these people didn't even exist before 9/11. Some got drafted. Some got brought in under duress. But they're here. And so 18 years later, we have now gotten capacity. We've now got a seasoned group of people in this space who understand how to get it done. And so they have partnered with us over the last few years to help us get it right. To their credit, the numbers indicate that they are doing that, probably more so than some of the legacy agencies who've been around forever. But for me, that's still not quite where we need to be. And so I encourage and want to continue to encourage them to do better. Because there's still some people around who want to do business with us. And I want them to know that DHS is open for business. So obviously, that's why we're here. And we have a stellar group serving. But I'm going to actually turn it over to the person who gets it. Our Chief Procurement Officer. Now, before I came to Washington, I had no idea what a chief procurement officer was. I knew what a business manager was. I knew what an account manager happened to be. But when you get to Washington, it's all about titles, whether you have an office with a window, or if you have a parking space. And when you can have a parking space, a window, and a title, you somebody. Well, so guess what? I'm about to introduce somebody with all three. And let me just say how she's been just really a joy to work with over the years. And whatever the facts are, we get them. And I think that kind of set people above the rest. And I know staff always appreciate that, because sometimes the member beats them up for information and they kind of pass the beat on to folks. So Sonia Correa is a good friend, and I'm happy that she continues to tolerate us, and even doing some Saturday meetings, you know, which is rarity in this town, trust me. But she's demonstrated her commitment to making it happen, and I'm happy to say that of all the people I deal with titles, parking spaces, and windows for offices, she's the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So, sir, thank you very much for those kind remarks, and it's truly an honor and a pleasure to always be here and to work with the small business community. One of the things about me, I've been in the contracting profession and the acquisition profession, program management as well as contracting, for approximately 39 years. And I am extremely passionate about two things: getting it done right and working with all the companies out there that can deliver on the needs of the federal government of the United States. And I'm deeply committed to the small business program, as my colleagues will share with you and as you'll see from some of our statistics. But today, first thing I want to do is introduce the illustrious panel here, because as the chairman said, I have a great title, a not so great window, and an okay parking spot. So I don't know that I've completely arrived, but anyway, but nonetheless, I have those things. But the people who make the job easier for me are the folks sitting at this table who execute on a daily basis on our programs and write the contracts and seek out the companies to come and help us do our business. And let me tell you something, we are open for business, and we are always open to doing business with companies that haven't done business with the federal government before. It's not as hard and as scary as some people make it out to be, and I think our team here really simplifies it. So first, starting here to my right is Ms. Darlene Bullock. She is the Acting Executive Director of the Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization. For small businesses who've never done business with the government, or who are not sure about how to do business with the government, or have not had a good experience working with federal agencies, she's a key player in our office because she'll guide you into the correct areas. Next to her is Jackie Rubino. Jackie runs our Strategic Programs Division. The Strategic Programs Division does all things strategic for the Office of the Chief Procurement Officer. So that includes managing our strategic programs, our strategic contracts that we write, agency-wide as well as government-wide contracts that we participate in, running our category management program, and ensuring that everybody understands what that means and how to use those vehicles effectively, and making sure that we're partnering with the OSDBU to make sure that we create opportunities for small businesses to participate in those programs on a regular basis. Next to her is Ms. Victoria Short. Vicki Short runs our Office of Procurement Operations. It's one of our largest heads of contracting activity, supporting multiple programs across the department, including our cybersecurity programs, our Chief Information Officer, Science and Technology, Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction. She's looking at me to see if I forget anything. Chief Financial Officer.
And I don't have a window.
That's true. We have her in the middle of the building. But she got a nice parking spot for that big car she drives. No, I'm just kidding. And she's got a really good title. No, just kidding. But she's our head of contracting activity at the Office of Procurement Operations, and she handles all those headquarters offices that need any kind of buying need. So that includes the Office of the Secretary, all the offices that fall under management, as well as those that I've identified. And she also supports the award of a lot of our strategically sourced programs. So that's Victoria Short. Next to her is a gentleman who, when I introduce you to him, then you got to forget him. No, I'm kidding. He is Gary Hickey. He is the head of contracting activity, for the Office of Selective Acquisitions. And we added Gary to the panel because the Office of Selective Acquisitions is where we do our classified programs. And to work in the classified area, you do have to understand the process to get enrolled in that process. So we thought it'd be great to have Gary here today to kind of educate you in that area. A little secret I'll share with you, Gary used to be Vicky's deputy. Vicky and Gary both have worked for me for a long time. So so they kind of know me. Seated next to Gary is Mr. Earl Lewis. Earl is the Deputy Head of Contracting over at the Customs and Border Protection. He's had a pretty busy year, and he's going to be here to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that they're doing at CBP and the kinds of things that they buy and how to do business with CBP. And then to his right is Mr. Lester Engel. He's the Deputy Head of Contracting, or the Acting Deputy Head of Contracting, over at the Federal Emergency Management Agency. And as you know, FEMA is busy all year round. They have some routine contracts that they do, but they do this thing called disaster-related contracts that keeps them pretty busy this time of year. So Les is here. And then rounding out our panel, we have one of our colleagues from GSA, Ms. Judith Zawoski, who's here to talk a little bit about some of the GSA programs and the things that they're doing with Fed Biz Ops. So to my panel members, thank you for being here today. Really appreciate it. And out here in the audience, we have Tony Bell, who's the Deputy of the Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization. He's the other guy you see when Darlene blows you off. No, just kidding. And then joining me from my industry liaison team is Mr. Milton Slade, seated over there. He's a person that you can talk to if you need to get an appointment with our office to learn a little bit more, if you have more in-depth questions that you'd like to talk to us about. So with that, we're going to play you an introductory video that tells you a little bit about the mission of the Department of Homeland Security. And as you're teeing up that video, let me tell you something. One of the reasons all of us are here, in reality, is the mission of the Department of Homeland Security. The events that happened 18 years ago can never happen again in this country. And it is our job to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Service pretty close at hand, as you can see.
And was a record-setting year, with GSA officers confiscating more than 2,600 firearms nationwide.
I want to say how grateful I am to all of the law enforcement who worked together, who brought their A game.
In a single year, the Coast Guard and Border Protection intercepted an astonishing $10 billion worth of drugs on the way to America.
This is the most sophisticated tunnel that has ever been discovered along the border.
ICE enforcement and removal operations arrested 331 criminal aliens and immigration violators.
HSI arrested more than 1,200 from gangs across the U.S.
1,000 child victims were identified and rescued, with Homeland Security investigations agents arresting nearly 3,000 child predators.
2 weeks since historic flooding left thousands of Houstonians underwater, FEMA has opened 4 disaster recovery centers in the hardest hit areas.
The U.S. Coast Guard came through with flying colors, rescuing 33,000 people.
To disrupt terrorist attacks, to make our borders more secure, respond to natural disasters, and make our immigration system more effective and fair. Now, addressing any one of these challenges is a tall order. Addressing all of them at once is a monumental task. But that's what the dedicated men and women of the Department of Homeland Security do every day.
Thank you. As you can see, our mission is very diverse and very varied. And to support that mission, we have to have top-notch professionals working within the organization, and we have to have the very best contractors supporting us, whether it's providing services, products, goods. We need the very best. We need the latest technologies, and we need them quickly and effectively. So our goal in our contracting operations is to always engage with industry on a very regular and recurring basis, make sure that we're tapping all levels of industry, across the country to make sure that we are getting the very best products and services. And so we invite you to come and do business with us. Next, I have a couple of slides here. You've already heard our mission. It's with honor and integrity. We will safeguard the American people, our way of life, our values. In essence, we are here to protect the homeland. And of course, our mission is, excuse me, they flipped the slide too fast. Okay. But anyway, our mission is to safeguard the homeland. So with that, I'm going to go ahead now and confuse you, Mill. You know, I just like messing with them. Anyway, this is our org chart, and it's a little bit of an eye chart, but I know that we're going to post, I believe we're going to post our charts up there, right? So I'll tell you a little bit about our organization and just kind of highlight a few key areas. As I mentioned, Ms. Darlene Bullock is the acting director of our Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization. That office is critical and essential to our operations because it helps us identify and work with small businesses across all the program areas and ensure that we're addressing the needs of small businesses when we're writing our contracts, that we're fairly considering whether small businesses are out there that can support our efforts, and if they are out there, how we bring them in and invite them to participate in the process and ensure that the process is workable for them. Along with Ms. Darlene Bullock, we have an organization called Strategic Programs that I talked a little bit about with Jackie Rubino. Jackie runs our Strategic Programs division, and she's going to talk a little bit more about our strategically sourced contracts. Suffice it to say, we're a leader in the area of category management and strategic sourcing. We have probably well over 80 contractual vehicles, strategic program vehicles. We are also the category manager federal-wide for all things security. So we buy things like weapons, ammunitions, and even those beautiful dogs that you see at TSA. We actually have a canine program. And Jackie works in that area along with the various program offices across the Department of Homeland Security. And that Strategic Programs Office is extremely important because we stood it up back in basically late 2003, early 2004, out of necessity, because we had to be more efficient in how we bought across DHS because we didn't have an overabundance of resources. So what we're really trying to do is standardize our requirements, make sure that we're sharing our contracts across the department, and wherever possible, working with our partners at other agencies like GSA, HHS, DOJ, et cetera, to share resources and learn from one another and hopefully improve our buying power across the federal government. Along with Ms. Jackie Rubino, I mentioned that we have a couple of other divisions. I should mention our acquisition policy and oversight team. That's our team that makes sure that when we're developing policy or we're working with Congress on the development of policy, that we're taking into consideration the various aspects of doing business with DHS and making sure that we're simplifying the process as much as possible and making it a more inviting process for industry to participate, taking into consideration that small businesses don't have the resources that larger organizations do to bid on contracts. In addition to that, we have 9 heads of contracting. They're listed along the bottom there, 7 of them, and 2 of them appear in the upper chart. Those 2 organizations, Office of Selective Acquisitions, Gary Hickey, and Office of Procurement Operations, Vicki Short, report directly to me. The other 7 heads of contracting activity report to the components that they're assigned. So it's CBP, FEMA, FLETC, Secret Service, et cetera. Those organizations, while they are their own contract operating shops, they do get their authority to operate from me. And our Acquisition Policy and Oversight Office helps write the policies that they work under, and then we go out and periodically conduct reviews to make sure they're complying with rules and regulations. The last team on that chart that I do want to mention is our Procurement Innovation Lab. When I became the Chief Procurement Officer in January 2015, I came with a goal to improve how we do procurements across the department and to also engage better with industry and simplify the process. We stood up the Procurement Innovation Lab because as a former contracting officer, I know that operating within the parameters of the regulations as they exist today, there are many flexibilities and there are many ways that we can streamline and improve the business process. We don't have to change all the rules to do it. We just have to learn to use the flexibilities and challenge ourselves and understand that we got to take managed risks. So I stood up the Procurement Innovation Lab as a consultative arm of the Office of the Chief Procurement Officer to work with our contracting officers across DHS to find ways to improve, streamline, and make it easier to do business with DHS. I'm happy to report that when we started that organization in March of 2015, we started out with about a handful of projects. Today, we have over 80 projects that have been awarded using streamlined acquisition initiatives, where we have taken processes that normally would take a complete year, a contract solicitation that might take a full year to complete, and we've narrowed that down to probably about 120 days, in some cases versus 90 days. We've also taken a process that sometimes required a lot of paper and a lot of back and forth with emails and things like that, and narrowed it down to oral presentations or show me, don't tell me product demonstrations. So our goal is to simplify the procurement process. So those are some of the things that we're doing at DHS in the Office of the Chief Procurement Officer. Next, this just tells you our mission space. It talks a little bit about how we're organized organizationally. But the most important thing that I want you to know is we at DHS welcome companies to come in and talk to us. We have an industry liaison team with industry liaisons identified at each of the components, and their goal is to connect you with the right program offices based on what the products are that you're trying to sell, or the services you're trying to sell, so that you talk to the right people and better understand what we're trying to do. Our goal is to always engage with industry, be as open and as transparent as we can be, given the products and services that we buy. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to our panelists. Darlene is going to lead off talking about our small business program. But here's one thing I will tell, because I like to steal Darlene's thunder. We have an excellent track record of meeting or exceeding our goals in all areas of small business. 10 A's in a row, I think 4 of them are A pluses. But it's not just about scoring a grade of A. It's about getting the right companies with the right tools, the right technologies, the right people to come in and support all those missions that you described. Because it is about mission first, and it's about making sure that we bring the very best to this department. So on behalf of DHS, thank you for being here. I'm open to any questions that you may have, but we're going to turn it over to Darlene, and Darlene, do your brag.
Yeah, I am. And I'll stand only because I do not have my glasses and I cannot have to see the bigger board. But thank you for having us here, Chairman Thompson. We appreciate being here again this year and supporting this program. I will say really quick, I'll be brief because we have a lot of people with a lot of important things to talk about, a lot of information to give, but I will say that I have been at the department for 13 years. I will say that 9/11 is what caused me to join the department. I was working at USAID before that, so the mission of the department is why I'm really here. Gary and Vicki did used to work for me. I do have a window, of parking space, and a title. So I got all of them right now. So no, she's been taking care of it. So no, I love working with all these people, and I will tell you that all of us, the overarching piece of this is that small business is ingrained into every piece of the procurement process for DHS. So, it affects FEMA. It affects CBP. Maybe Earl doesn't like it sometimes, but sometimes he does, most of the time. Gary, Vicki, they all respect the mission of the OSDBU, why we exist, and the need to have small businesses ingrained into the fabric of the DHS mission. So I'll just do a few takeaways because we have a lot of information to go through. So this slide here just tells you, in fiscal year 18, what the contract spend was for DHS. We spent approximately $18 billion. And out of that spend, most of it is for professional services and IT. So in most agencies, that's where you see a lot of the spend. Go back 1 second, Milton. And so we'll have this slide available so you can also see the other larger areas. And this is across the department, not just for any particular component. Next slide, Milton. And as you saw in the video, and I don't know whenever I look at that video, I get chills. I don't know who else does. But when you see it, you see the many missions and the dedication of the men and women that work for Homeland. But these next few slides, which you can kind of go through, Milton, really shows which each of the offices, some sitting here today, what it is, the amount of spend for fiscal year 18, and some of the items, supplies, services that they've bought in fiscal year 18. So we can go through those. Now, how does DHS buy? We buy in a number of ways. DHS, for one, we support all the small business programs. So we support the 8A program, Service Disabled, Women-Owned, Hub Zone, regular small business program. We buy things through open market, strategic sourcing. Jackie will talk about that in a bit. Category management. We have DHS-wide contracts. We utilize the GSA schedule. So we have. So you'll see this nice display, this roadmap kind of shows, you have to determine as a small business where I mean, where do you enter and exit? You know, are you going to have a GSA schedule, unsolicited proposals? Do you have a great idea and you want to, you know, present it to DHS, and you know, we can take it from there. So there are different avenues or different ways to access us. For instance, when Sarai talked about FEMA, you know, they have certain contracts that turn on when there are disaster. They're in place, but they, you know, activate. Unfortunately, they have to activate, but we have to be prepared. So next slide, Milton. Well, where should vendors go? Now, there was a handout out front. We have a system called Acquisition Planning Forecast System. And that's a portal for all the contract specialists, contracting officers. They add into this portal their acquisitions over $250,000. So over the simplified acquisition threshold. So, you know, sometimes you know in advance what you're going to do, sometimes you don't. It has a lot of information. It's web-based. You can download the information in Excel. You can search by NAICS code. You can search by component. You can, it's different ways to slice and dice the information. But if you want to know, well, okay, what will FEMA maybe doing in fiscal year 20? That information, for the most part, is in there. Some things are not because they just don't know as of yet. Next slide. We also use FedBizOps, and so I think Judith will talk about the changes to FedBizOps in a few, but all of our open market procurements are posted that are not, you know, that should not be, I'll use those words, Gary, maybe, that are applicable or utilize FedBizOps, fbo.gov. And you can, again, search by NAICS codes. You can get emails and alerts on certain NAICS codes on which departments are submitting information on FBO. There are different ways to receive information. Next slide. No, go back one. And this just shows you what do we post on FedBizOps. Why is this important? We issue requests for information, broad agency announcements, which are more geared to research and development, sources sought. A lot of times you'll see DHS post draft RFPs because we want feedback on, you know, are we going in the right direction with this procurement, et cetera. RFQs, of course, and the actual RFP. The award notices are also posted on FedBizOps, so you'll know that. Next slide. And so how, you know, often people ask, well, how else would I know? A lot of times you have to look at the budget of the organization. You know, there's maybe a line item for X. Well, I know that DHS is going to buy, for example, Coast Guard buys cutters. And so you know that there's going to be a huge obligation for cutters, maybe subcontracting opportunities. You have to kind of think of it, you know, in a different way. It may not be prime contracting, might be subcontracting that, you know, may be something that your company wants to do. SAM, I think Judith will talk about System for Award Management. You have to be registered in SAM to do any kind of business with the federal government, but she can get into that in a bit. I don't want to steal your thunder, Judith, about SAM, so I'll go ahead. Next slide. So key programs, go ahead, Milton. So this is the more talk about DHS small business. Sarai told my thunder, which she does about small business a lot, but which is fine. Thank you, Sarai. We have received 10 A's in a row on the SBA Small Business Scorecard. The last 3 years have been an A+. We expect for fiscal year 19 to have an A also. We're striving for A+, but Vicki needs to get it in gear, and Earl and Lester need to get it in gear so we can do that. But we are positive that we will have another A. That will make 11 A's in a row, A+. We're hoping for that. Fiscal year 18, DHS awarded 34.5% of the total contracting dollars to small business. Now, do I always think we can do better? Yes. Does the congressman think we can do better? Do all of us think we probably can do better? But it's sometimes, like the example for a cutter, a small business just may not be able to do that, and so we have to kind of understand that. So one of the things I want everyone to note is that in fiscal year 18, we have 11,700 companies receive DHS contracts, and 3,900 were large businesses. 7,800 were small businesses. So we're very focused on making sure that we make small business awards and that a percentage of our awards go to those small businesses primes. You know, people want to be primes, not just subcontractors. So we have a huge emphasis on that. Next slide. Now, this is what I really wanted to show. This is the official goal achievement for DHS from the Federal Procurement Data System for fiscal year 18. So as you can see, for fiscal year 18, our goal, small business prime goal, was 33%, and our achievement was 35.5%. Meaning, you put it into dollars, about $6.7 billion went to small businesses as prime contractors. Women-owned small business, the women-owned, small disadvantaged, service-disabled, and hub zone, those are statutory goals. So we do not go beyond that. We go with the statutory goal. The small business prime goal is not a statutory goal. The statutory goal is 23%. DHS negotiates with SBA. We have a higher goal than the statutory goal. The statutory goal is 23. We do it every year. We negotiate a goal. This year we're almost in the throes of it. We're starting the process. But as you can see, from in the subcontracting achievement is at the bottom. So as you can see, last year was the first year that we met or exceeded all 10 goals in small business prime and subcontracting. So we're very proud of that. So we can have this visual for you, and it's actually the score. This is the piece of the scorecard. There's the larger scorecard of how the A+ is achieved is on SBA's website, and you can Google the scorecard. So next slide. So this is just some information about our office, our website. We have a website. We also have a general email box. You know, if you want to send a message or set up meetings with us, you can send it directly there. Our information is on the website, how to do business. And so we have a lot of information on that website about our vendor outreach program. We have vendor outreach. We have 10 vendor outreach sessions every year, every fiscal year. We do not do it in April or September, because of, naturally September is a busy time. So that is where small business specialists and some of our prime contractors come. We hold it at 90 K Street Northeast, and we have you go to the website, we have a whole system where you can register, et cetera. It gives you a little more information. And so it gives you an opportunity to get face time with the small business specialists and some of the large prime contractors. And the large prime contractor list is also on the website. And subcontracting opportunities, again, to the website or fbo.gov. Again, you can talk with us about any major procurements that may happen. Some that we know due to market research may not be geared, small businesses may not be able to do it as a prime, but there may be some small business opportunities. Next slide. All Small Mentor Protege, really quickly, SBA has a All Small Mentor Protege program. If you want more information about that, you could go to the website. I don't want to take too much time, but and DHS has also has a Mentor Protege program. Right now we have about 40 or so Mentor Protege agreements. Our program is geared towards subcontracting, small business and subcontracting. Large companies get credit during evaluation of being in the Mentor Protege commitment or agreement with a small company. Our mentor must be large. We don't have a JV feature with ours, unlike SBA with their all small mentor protege. So the point of it is to foster relationships. It can be different kind of training. It could be, for example, the large company I'll use the cutters again, but maybe the small business is getting a benefit of training on how to do something specific, shipbuilding, or it depends on what their agreement is. There's not one way of crafting your own agreement. They're all individual. And so we don't find you a mentor. It's like, dating game. You got to find your own person. Yeah, we'll do the marriage, we'll do the agreement, but we do not find you the date. So, well, I'm just saying it's simple. So that's the way it is. So we manage the whole program, but we don't find you that individual company to partner with. Next slide. Okay, so now that was brief, but if you go to our website, you can find my contact information, general email box. The takeaway is that we support all small business programs, and that small business is ingrained into the fabric of DHS, and it will stay that way. But now we have Jackie Rubino. Jackie will come and talk about category management and our strategic sourcing program. Or unless you want to sit. She's going to sit.
I was going to stay seated if that's okay. Yeah, okay. Good afternoon, everyone. So as Darlene indicated, there are many ways in which DHS acquires goods and services from our industry partners. And one of the key programs that we are looking at recently is category management. And category management is the government's initiative for us to look at the common goods and services that we are acquiring and come up with a way to be more efficient and effective in buying them by leveraging either our buying power through some centralized contract vehicles, sharing of best practices and the knowledge that we learn, understanding the terms and conditions, looking at our industry partners and conducting what we call supplier relationship management, which really is about how can we better align with industry to understand the way that you do business and how you deliver, and what is it that we're asking for. Does that drive up your costs and your ability to hinder your ability to perform under the contracts and the requirements that we've set forward? So what we are doing at DHS is rolling out category management and looking at how do we better serve our mission set through these contract vehicles that we have in place or that we have to be developed. And then how do we look at government-wide solutions where they apply to meet our needs. Next slide, Milton. So the drive towards category management is really through the President's Management Agenda. Many of you may be familiar with this document, but the President's Management Agenda lays out several cross-agency priority goals, and category management is goal number 7. And it addresses 4 key actions that we have to take as an agency. And really what it is saying that how do we leverage common solutions? How are we not reinventing the wheel over and over again and being inefficient? So bottom line, how can we drive towards more efficient behaviors and in the end result in better products and capabilities delivered to like our frontline missions? Next slide. So our strategic sourcing program, and strategic sourcing being one element of category management, really about how we source properly and buy and put together department-wide contract vehicles, has been quite successful. As Soraya indicated, we have over 80 plus contract vehicles in place that service the Department of Homeland Security and all of our components. We come together to talk about our common requirements. How can we, leverage our collective spend and requirements to implement really great department-wide solutions that make it easy and effective for our components to leverage, delivering more timely products and capabilities at potentially reduced cost, more efficient pricing, standardization of terms and conditions, and enabling industry to serve us through maybe a centralized contract vehicle instead of trying to hunt down several disparate contract vehicles and provide the same thing across the agency. So as a result of these contracts, we measure our success in what we call savings. So it's the cost avoidance, essentially, that we are achieving by leveraging streamlined, contract solutions, so the reduction in administrative costs. And what you're seeing here is some hard savings based on the reduction in the prices paid because we are leveraging the volume and we are more efficient. Through our vehicles, we're proud to say that about 48% of the total spend across the agency has gone through these contract vehicles. And small business primes see about 50% of the overarching spend through our contract vehicles. Darlene and I have a really great partnership, as we do with Vicki, because she gets stuck doing all the contracting for most of these contracts. We work very closely to look and evaluate, first and foremost, how can we access the small business community and what they offer to us through these vehicles. And so that's at the forefront of our mind. Next slide. So some key resources for strategic sourcing. There is a listing on our externally facing department-wide DHS.gov website that lists all of our DHS-wide contract vehicles and all of the vendors who are on each of those contracts. I note that because the established contract vehicles, many of them permit post-award subcontracting opportunities. It is a great way to get your foot in the door and for DHS to access you and your capabilities through some other partners. We highly encourage our contract holders to bring innovative capabilities and innovative partners to these vehicles. And so we recommend that you go forward and look at those, the list of the contract vehicles, see what the scope is, and look to see if there's any potential for you to team with some companies on those vehicles. Likewise, we publish our in-process initiatives. We have about 30 or so department-wide contract vehicles that are currently being worked across many areas, anything from our detection equipment and weapons and ammunition to some of our software initiatives and our IT data centers, et cetera. So our in-process initiatives are listed on our externally facing website, so that is a great place for you to check to get an idea of what's up and coming, so that you can track that as a potential opportunity in which to serve our department. If you have any questions or would like to connect with our organization, we also have an email address there, and it's a great opportunity. Please reach out. We do meet with our industry partners quite often. I highly recommend reaching out if you see an in-process initiative that is on our list and it's something that you feel that you could support. We'd like to know what's out there in terms of capabilities so that we don't have a program office that writes narrow requirements that inadvertently excludes you and your capabilities from providing the service to us. Next slide.
All right. And with that, I think, Jackie, thank you. Darlene, thank you. So that gives you a general overview of some of the programs that we're working. Now, our component representatives are going to talk specifically about what they do in their different areas. We're going to start with Vicki Short in the Office of Procurement Operations.
The one that doesn't have a window. No, I'm kidding. So good afternoon. Again, I'm Victoria Short, Vicki Short. I support I'm the head of the contract and activity for the Office of Procurement Operations. So I sit at the headquarters level. And I have a very diverse, if you look on, and CPO mentioned it earlier, I have a very diverse customer base. So in addition to, as Sarai stated earlier, the Office of the Secretary, I also support the CIO. She failed to mention the most important customer, which is the CPO. So she's also my customer as well. Yeah, kind of challenging sometimes, but they're best. We also support science and technology, and science and technology does a lot of the research and development type support. So we have a very diverse customer base at the headquarters level. In addition to, similar to how the relationship Sarai has with the other heads of contracting in terms of components, heads of the contracting activity, I also have two organizations that are not on this list that I provide contracting authority to, and that is the Federal Protective Acquisition Service Division, and they provide pretty much the security guard services for all the federal buildings. I also have a organization that's out of Burlington, Vermont, which is USCIS. So they're another organization where they provide support to USCIS as well as FPS, who is currently under the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, but will soon join Undersecretary of Management. So those are two organizations that I oversee from a contracting standpoint. Next slide, please. Just to kind of give you additional insight into what we, kind of a snapshot. Darlene gave kind of a snapshot of the entire DHS. This particular slide gives a snapshot into what OPO buys in terms of contract dollars. So the majority of our dollars in 18, and I would say the same with 19. We're not done yet. We've got about 20 more days to go. So we spend a lot of our money, or we do a lot of contracts, award a lot of contracts in support of IT as well as professional services. So we did about $3.83 billion, and that does not include what we call interagency agreements, and that is where we seek support from other federal agencies. And we're currently at $41 billion in terms of the contracts that we've awarded thus far. That kind of gives you the overview of OPO. Like I said, very diverse customer. Although we all have the one mission that was presented, a lot of our customers have missions within the mission. And so with the diverse diverse customer base that I have. It's very exciting, and I'm very busy, but I'm happy to be here today. Thank you.
All right.
Excellent. Yes. Yes. Yes, it is. And I don't have a window. Can you believe that? No.
Like I said, she has a better parking space than all of us.
I do have an office. It's not a cubicle. It's just on the inside.
We did offer to draw her a window, but she...
I'm glad you recognize that. Thank you.
How much you paying?
I know.
All right, Mr.
Okay,
E.
great. Hi, everyone. I'm Gary Hickey, and I'm the head of the contracting activity for Office of Selective Acquisitions. So I process the classified and highly sensitive acquisitions for really, I do the components as well as some of the customers that Vicki had brought up as well for the headquarters and stuff. Predominantly our stuff, we use the same process that any other procurement shop would use, except we use different protocols as far as releasing information. So folks have to go through those protocols. So if you're not cleared at a top secret level, then you can't obviously propose on any top secret contracts and the secret level. And then there are some that are just highly sensitive because they deal with specific topics. And what we use is the National Security Agency has a system called the Acquisition Resource Center, which is just like FedBizOps, but the vendors that apply to use the ARC, you have to go through a vetting process, and you'll only be allowed the level of clearance you have to see those particular procurements. So there's opportunities out there for small businesses. We do award to small businesses. We do IDIQs with small business tracks or set-asides. Darlene does make sure she looks at my stuff, so I do answer to OBSDBU, and so, and she makes sure that what I can set aside, I do set aside. So, if you're interested in looking at the intelligence area or the IC community, there are opportunities for small businesses. You just have to go through the vetting process to get there. Best if you can find someone to sponsor you from a facility clearance standpoint, just to get started, see if you like that space, and eventually you may get your own facility clearance at some point in time. But I met one vendor today who's actually got contracts on the classified side, and it's actually a small business. So, and then I've got a couple small business set-asides that are currently going through the evaluation and award process. So it does exist, so take that into consideration. All you have to do is Google NSA ARC, and that'll give you the link, and you can work with that team to get into that area through those protocols. And I'll have a handout that I can give you later on, which will talk more about my office, and also give you the links to where we put our solicitations and where we do our market research. And I want to put a plug in for market research, because when we send out requests for information, that's the time when we make a decision for a small business. So it's typically the rule of two. So if we get 2 small businesses and we know you can do it, then we set it aside for small business. We even do that in the IC community as well. So same rules apply. We just have different protocols that keep our nation's secrets secret. That's all. And with that, I'll pass it on, because I don't want to get into that conversation. So, yeah, go ahead, Earl.
You got me? Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, no problem. You said pass it on.
Pass it on.
Hi, I'm Earl Lewis. I'm the deputy head of the contract activity for Customs and Border Protection. So we have a dual mission of securing and safeguarding America's borders, but we also facilitate lawful trade and travel. A lot of times people forget that part and just concentrate on the border protection. And so with that being said, I have a staff that is all over the country. So people in Indianapolis, people in Arizona, Tucson. And the reason I bring that up is my industry support folks. I have 2 people on the East Coast and 2 people on the West Coast to support industry engagement. And so for us, whether there's a procurement or not, we are always wanting to engage with industry. That's really pushed very hard from our leadership. So one of the things that we established internally is an industry council. And what that means is not only procurement's there, but each program office has to send a senior government official to these meetings. So when you're meeting with us, you are meeting with procurement, but you're also meeting with the program office. So once again, it removes the gap, because I know there's a lot of times where industry has different thoughts and things, and you're getting one or the other. And so we make sure we try to tag team, and that's something that we're very proud of. So this year, we've had approximately 275 one-on-one industry meetings, because like I said, that's something that we kind of drive and stress. And so from an obligation standpoint, another thing we're proud of it for this year is we're about 40% of all our dollars obligated. So this year we're going to be about $6 billion. We had a couple of supplementals to deal with the Southwest border humanitarian crisis. But at this point in time, 40% of all our obligations is going to small business prime, so not even subcontracts. So I'll just leave you with that, you know, I look forward to meeting you guys one-on-one, and if you have any questions and you want to talk to me directly about opportunities, I'll be here.
You're good. I think it's my turn. Hey guys, Lester Ingold, acting Deputy HCA for FEMA. And as you know, we've had some pretty active seasons here in the past few years. And we had the Puerto Rico, you know, Hurricane Irma, Maria, Michael, I can name a few. But one good thing about, you know, working with all of us that's on the stage right now and the synergy that's created by our Chief Procurement Officer, me and Mrs. Correa, across our organizations, is the ability to reach out to any of them and be able to, you know, receive any type of support to help us be successful. So that's a beautiful thing when it comes to our organizations and how we operate. But ultimately, FEMA's responsibility is to respond and manage and prepare for and all that good stuff and mitigate, you know, disasters, natural, man-made, whatever. You know, we're pretty active in things that we would not, you know, that a lot of people don't believe or wouldn't even think of, such as the Super Bowl. You know, we team with a lot of different individuals in the process of doing that, you know, preparing for security and just in case something happened in an event like that. But ultimately, you know, across our organization, we spend probably about a good average of $2 billion a year during a non-disaster season. And during the disaster season, depending on how severe it is, we can spend from $4 to $6 billion. That's been our average here in the past few years, actually. And so, you know, we support organizations. You know, I'm the deputy to Mr. Bobby McCain, who's our actual HCA. And we support our different operations within our organization, such as our Federal Insurance Mitigation Administration, our Office of Response and Recovery, which is responsible for the disaster side of our organization. And, you know, we have our logistics, response, recovery organizations and different things like that within that organization. Our mission support, which is, you know, the headquarters element that has our CIO office, our actual OCPO, our office, it's, you know, up under there as well. And so we also have provide support for our Center for Domestic Preparedness, our National Emergency Training Center. And we also have 10 regions where we actually have contracting individuals, contracting officers who sit out there and support those regions directly, and we're also available to assist them in the process as well, which we do because, you know, our authority acquisition-wise stems from Ms. Carrera and then goes down to our chief, our HCA, and it extends down, delegated to those individuals. But we buy different things such as mobile, you know, manufactured housing units, which are our trailers. We also, you know, provide public assistance, technical assistance, contracting services to our actual states to help them with engineers and different things like that, you know, after disasters happen. And in the preparation of disasters, we provide our housing inspection services contracting. We have individual assistance programs where we help individuals, where we can go as far as, you know, providing, you know, hotel services for those who are displaced during the disaster. And, you know, we have our National Flood Insurance Program, and that has a full conglomerate of contracts up under that, you know, so we provide a lot of services for that. And different things like responder support camps and different things like that. Within our organization, we also have an industry liaison program that you guys can reach out to and, you know, have open and direct contact with our organization and be able to come in and have a sit down with us. You know, one thing we do, we try and establish good working relationships with our business partners. meaning you guys. We do call you business partners. A lot of folks don't believe that, you know. And a good thing about it, I always speak good about, you know, Ms. Carrera, because she always, you know, promote the fact of us reaching out to you guys and having open conversations, because in the process of developing requirements, which our programs do, which was a good thing that Vicki mentioned, you know, and Earl as well, when he was talking about having a council and having the programs as a part of that, you know, give you guys the opportunity to learn what our organization is and what direction we're heading in, what type of requirements we're looking at developing. Our APFS system is out there as well to provide that information. So we have a slew of things out there for you guys, and I just want you to understand and know that we are open and always available. You know, you may not only want to come and meet and have a conversation with us relative to your business, you know, or line of business that you provide, or services that you may or may not be able to provide our organization. You may want to come in and get the experience of, you know, engaging with the government and having an open conversation, you know, have dialogue relative to, you know, opportunities, or, you know, how should you present and different things like that, you know. And one thing I always tell small businesses is to, you know, take a look at the organization that you're interested in and try and learn where you fit within that organization, because ultimately it's almost like a commercial for like a movie or something. You know, it's only about 30 seconds, so it captures your attention and it shows you everything that's good. And when we go to the movies, we've seen it all already. So, you know, within that 30 seconds, hey, this is where you want to capture your audience and, you know, and sell yourself and show them how good you are and what you know about our organization and what you can help, you know, us, you know, to achieve our mission, help sustain what we do in our operation. So I'm sitting up here and I'm available, you know, until we're done, and I'm going to pass it on to Ms. Judith.
Oh, before you start, I got a few more slides we want to show you about DHS. So this just very quickly highlights some of the things that we're doing to make sure that we're constantly engaging with industry. We do have certain events. Each of these components, as well as the remaining components that were on the list, host their own industry days, whether they're solicitation specific for a particular requirement they may have out there, but sometimes they're hosting events just so that you can come in and understand what kind of things we buy, what are the programs that we're supporting, and you can meet our program managers and get a better understanding of the organization and what they do, what they buy, and how they buy. But we also host DHS-wide events. One of those events, which is coming up in November, is our strategic industry conversation. This is an opportunity to hear from senior leadership of the agency. What are some of the challenges we confront? Where are we heading as an agency strategically? What are we trying to achieve? Where do we need research and development focused energies? What kind of technologies are we interested in? So that's an all-day event. It's open for industry. Typically, our average attendee list is about 700 folks, and the kinds of folks that we have there are our assistant secretaries, the secretary, the deputy secretary, and the heads of the various departments. We have panel discussions, we have breakout sessions, so it's a great opportunity to get to know the organization and get to know a lot of the key players in the organization. As you can see, one of my strategic goals is promoting meaningful communications, and that does mean that we engage with industry, we engage with all the stakeholders that are involved in overseeing DHS, and make sure that folks understand and that we're communicating what we're trying to do or what we're trying to achieve. The other thing that we host are things called reverse industry days. Started the reverse industry days so that we can better understand what motivates and inspires industry to work with the federal government. We really want to understand how to do business with you. All too often we spend a lot of time telling industry how to do business with us, but we want to understand how to do business with you. A contractual arrangement, whether it's a contract, and other transaction authority or other vehicle, it's a partnership. It is a true partnership, and we need to understand what motivates and drives you and how we can better structure our solicitations and our programs to invite you in to do business with us. All competition is good competition. So the Reverse Industry Days is one of that, and then we also host a series of learning cafes, webinars, so folks can learn how to do business with DHS. Next slide, please. You heard Earl especially, and actually everybody mentioned, our Industry Liaison Program. Very important that you understand the Industry Liaison Program, because that gives you an opportunity to reach out to someone if you're interested in a particular area and talk a little bit more about that agency, and they can help you set up meetings, meet program offices, or tell you about things that are going on within that particular component area. So we do have a website where we list our industry liaisons. Our industry liaisons work in partnership with one another, so we share information with one another. So sometimes you might come and talk to the headquarters industry liaison. We figure out that what you're interested in is more suited to FEMA. We will reach out and coordinate with the FEMA industry liaison and make sure that they bring you in. So again, this is information that we're going to be posting out there for you, but I did want to make you aware that it was out there. And then finally, last but not least, we have a slide here that tells you all the entry points into DHS, ways that we meet with you. I actually do meet with vendors. I think there's a few of them out there that have already met with me that will tell you that I will give you time on my calendar if you want to come in and talk to me. I will tell you the time is precious because they have me running around all over the place. So what I tell you is don't bring me the dog and pony show. Come talk to me, tell me what you're interested in, tell me what you want me to know, and tell me how I can help you come and do business with DHS. What's unique about your company, or what are you trying to do with DHS? And I'm going to point you in the right direction because every company out there matters. Everybody is bringing something to the table, and we want to know what that is. Again, we have various industry days, our annual industry events. RFIs, I do want a foot stomp, I think it was Vicky or Jackie,
Gary.
or everybody I think has said, RFIs. RFIs are extremely important, and we recognize that everybody can't dedicate a lot of resources to respond to RFIs. But whenever you have an opportunity, you see a sources sought, an RFI, or a draft RFP, please give us your feedback. What we are trying to do is make sure that we structure that solicitation in a way that enables you to bid with us. So we do take your comments seriously. A lot of times, based on the comments that we receive on a request for information, we will schedule follow-on meetings, what we call one-on-one meetings, to better understand your comments and make sure that we're structuring that solicitation in a way that makes it easier for companies to compete. So those RFIs, those draft RFPs are extremely important documents. You don't have to submit a ream of paper, you don't have to submit a lot of comments, but if you give us your feedback and you see something in there that perhaps makes it difficult for you to bid and you share that with us, we take that into consideration. So again, I invite you to do that. And then of course we post our industry, oh, he moved a little too fast. Okay. That last one, that last website, we post our industry days and scheduled events, including our vendor outreach sessions in our, what we call our industry government activity calendar on our website. So very important that you know that. And then the last thing I'll tell you about key takeaways of doing business. You can read all this good stuff. I think you got some really good pointers here. Know the organization you want to come and talk to. Don't be afraid to reach out to us. We may not get you on the calendar tomorrow, but you're going to get on our calendar. We do try to meet with you. September can be a heavy-duty month for us, but we still make time. Our industry liaisons are out there because we are open to doing business. We welcome the opportunity to meet new companies as well as talk to some of our existing partners and even some of the partners that we don't know are partners because they're subcontractors to some of our primes. But it's really good to get an opportunity to hear from you, hear what works, what doesn't work, any ideas that you may have on how we can improve our operations. So with that, like I said, these slides will be posted for you. I'm going to hand it over to GSA. Judith Zawatsky is here. She's going to talk a little bit about some of the good stuff that they're doing on our integrated acquisition environment and systems. So Judith, take it away.
I'm going to come over here because I can't actually see the slides from down there. Oh, so when you no way. So when you go on the speaking tour, in case you ever do, they tell you, never be on the end of the panel. People are asleep by then. Never get between people and lunch or happy hour. So you can see I've done very well today. That said, I have a decent parking space. I have a lousy window. GSA, we're open space, so no office, but I do have a title. For better or for worse. So to wake you up a little bit, I also have no prizes, but I do have a little bit of a quiz. So wake up. So I'm going to help you out for a second. So the system for award management, we're going to talk about it in a second. I'm going to give you a hint. Currently, as in this month, has 591,796 active registrants. Of those 591,796 active registrants, 429,549 of them are registered for all purposes, meaning, hey, I kind of either want a contract or I want a grant, I'm in it, okay? Best guess, what percentage, we won't make you do math, what percentage of those 429,549 active registrants for all purposes do you think are small businesses? Hey, not fair up here, you guys know. What, half, 50%?
You Rashida, you heard her.
So I will say, and it may come as a surprise to you, almost steady state, 74%. So well done from Osdabu. So about 74%. That means, how do I know that you're a small business? Because when you register in SAM, you come in and you tell us what you're in the business of doing, and then we bump that up against the NAICS code standards and we spit that out. So there's a couple ways to look at that, but bottom line, it's about 74%. So the majority of the registrants that we deal with and the people who pick up the phone and call and say, hey, can we have some help? Hey, I need something, are small businesses. Okay, so that's what we're kind of in the business of doing. So this is my obligatory slide. If I don't show it, I'm going to get in trouble back at home. So at the General Services Administration, the Federal Acquisition Service, for whom I serve very proudly, we have an initiative called the Federal Marketplace. It is our commissioner's guiding principle to make doing business with the federal government easy, efficient, and modern. Obviously, running systems is a big key to that. And we have some cornerstone projects. Someone's talked here about schedules, multiple award schedules. One of those cornerstone projects is the consolidation of 24 open and standing solicitations into one open standing solicitation. No small project. Next slide. So now we actually get down to talking about IAE. And so the integrated award environment is actually the product of eGov initiative, which brings together, you pick the number, 12, 16, 10. On any given day, the number is different. Standing systems that do stuff. I'm old enough that when I got in the business of federal contracting, there were onion skins, right, that you look through for opportunities. So when people complain to me about FBO, I bring them onion skin paper. But been there, I've lived this for a very long time. But IEE is actually managed by the General Services Administration, and we do so on behalf of all 24 CFO Act agencies. So DHS is a governing partner with us, along with, and actually Soraya sits as one of the governors of, but as well as all 24 CFO Act agencies. So we have a lot of customers and a lot of stakeholders to help us do what we do. But generally, the idea is to make it easier for you to do business with the government. I have a very unpopular program. I don't give out a lot of money. Okay, I really don't. I mean, it costs a couple million to run it and to modernize it. But at the end of the day, I don't really give out a lot of money. They give out a lot of money. DOD gives out a lot of money. Justice gives out a lot of money. My colleagues across government give out a lot of money. But you cannot get to them unless you come to me first. So I am either a facilitator or a roadblock, depending on your experience that particular day, to you doing what you want to do with the federal government, right? Okay. So we are in the process of modernizing the integrated award environment right now. It is a series of standalone systems. That means standalone data. That means standalone software licenses. That means standalone everything. And it means that you or my colleagues in government who have to do their jobs as well need to go to multiple systems in order to do that. And so our guiding vision right now is to modernize and bring those all together. And so if you would envision, without going reading you the slides, the actual vision for this modernization means that when you come into SAM and you log in, System for Award Management, now called beta.sam.gov. When you come in, you do more than register to do business with the government. It would be the place where you would have a workspace and it would say, oh, wow, I have to look at my past performance. Oh, I actually want to update my registration and let them know that Sally retired and now Johnny is the entity administrator, okay? I would like to look at opportunities. And rather than going to different systems, you would be able to code this one place. It would know you, it would know them, and it would unify that experience. All right? However, that's not about just moving some web pages. These are deep, big systems, right? But that's where we're getting to, right? So we're somewhere along the way. Anybody in here do grants? Or all just contract grants? Okay, so the very first of the systems that moved into beta.sam.gov was called CFDA, right? Financial Assistance. So that one has already been moved over into the new environment. We have already brought, in order to get ready for the modernization, you no longer have PEPRs and CPARs. We've merged those two together, which more than anything helps our government colleagues. And then when we modernize the whole thing, it will help everyone as well. And we have moved wage determinations online. We no longer go to something, I mean, you can type in wdol.gov and it will kindly redirect you to beta.sam.gov and you will be able to get to all of the wage determinations. I will tell you that the functionality, the policy under all of this stays the same. But some of the functionality has been updated. So for instance, in wage determinations, you are able to do save a lot of your searches. You're able to give yourself subscriptions so that you know if a certain wage determination gets updated or doesn't get updated. If you wanted to, if you were a consulting firm, you could get pinged every single day as soon as a wage determination got updated. Most people choose a weekly or a monthly update to help them stay in compliance with their contracts, but there's multiple options. And the very next one that's coming, and this is why we're talking, is FBO. So no cheating. Just to give you an idea of the scope of things, how many hits FedBizOps, right? FedBizOps is where everything has to get posted for competition above $25,000, right? How many hits do you think FedBizOps had in the month of July? No. Those are people registered to do business. This could be anybody. You could log in 15. You could go 15 times a day to check. Hey, did she post that opportunity yet? Hey, did she post that opportunity yet? Just July. All right, I'm going to help you out. 169 million. A month, sir. Now, July, that's the fourth quarter, so you might think, wow, it's a compressed buying season. There was a continuing resolution, a few of them. July must be so busy. You know what the slowest month is? It's always December, just a hint. The slowest month for people looking for stuff. Everyone's on vacation. 128 million hits. So when I'm trying to move it from one place to the other place, I got a lot of people who are very interested in the information on FBO who want to know what's going to happen, okay? So I made a plea to please look at sources sought, right? We were talking about that's how they know if there's a small business out there. So I took a quick peek while she was talking. In July, there were 2,000 active packages for just sources sought. Hey, we want to know who's out there who can do what. So there's a lot to do. You got to be busy, okay? There's a lot to do. There were, by the way, 15,000 active packages, but 2,000 of them were sources sought. So, and that's before we get to, hey, do you want to respond to this? And then you call them up and you say, why didn't you make it a set aside for small business? They say, we posted a sources sought. You didn't talk to us about your capabilities. So there's a lot of that out there. So the next thing we're moving is FBO, and God willing and the creek don't rise, it's going to happen over Veterans Day weekend. So stay tuned. All right. When we move it, you will still be able to go to fbo.gov. If you look at the regulation, it says that it is the central government point of entry for opportunities in the United States federal government. It will still be. We'll deal with the regulations later, but so it will be a redirect. So you don't, if you have like your browser knows to go to FBO, because that's what you do in the morning when you wake up, and that's what you do at night before you go to sleep, because you're looking for sources sought, you can still get there. I'm going to go right on over this, okay? To the next slide. There you go. All right, so we talked about this. This is where you go, FBO is where you go to look. We know that there are, on average, the average month is 150 to 160 million hits. That also means you have a lot of competitors out there looking. A few of those hits are from the government trying to make sure their stuff actually posted the way they wanted it to post. But the vast majority of them are from your competitors looking for opportunities. So just to give you an idea of what that means. We're very, very excited to be moving it over to beta.sam.gov. It follows the USDS web design standards. It has much greater capability on mobile applications. So, if you're riding the metro in the morning or wherever you're riding and you want to, in your carpool and you want to check it on your phone or your laptop or your whatever, it's going to do a lot more. But along with that, it begins to move everything into beta.sam.gov, some new functionality, some greater ability to see the opportunities, better search capabilities, better save capabilities. I'm actually very excited about it. So if you wanted to take a look at it right now, you could actually go into beta.sam.gov, even though the functionality is not in there, and you could search on data, right? It's not the authoritative source today, but it will be the authoritative source very soon. All right, so I was asked to talk about how you register in SAM. Keep going. How you register in SAM. So is there anybody here who is registered in the System for Award Management? Is anybody here who thinks, wow, I want to do business with DHS, but I've never heard of the System for Award Management? What? Yeah. So it all starts with SAM. So in order to register in the System for Award Management, in order to do business with the government, whether or not that's to get grants, financial assistance, or a contract, you must be registered in SAM. Okay? And to do that, there's some pretty simple steps. Sitting right behind you, sir, Anthony, raise your hand. Anthony is one of the people who runs the Federal Service Desk, which is the help desk for the System for Award Management. I promised him if he didn't behave, I was going to get out his home phone number. So
that's why he's sitting back there so quiet.
We get 35,000 calls a month. We's all about the numbers. Okay. So it is free. If somebody comes to you and wants to sell you the opportunity to register in SAM, you're welcome to spend your money, but I need to tell you that this is a system that is run and owned by the United States federal government. They help pay for it. I help pay for it. Our friends across government help pay for it, all with your U.S. taxpayer dollars. We highly encourage you to take advantage of the free help desk. Of the free system, and the help desk is free as well. Again, I'm not here to stop anyone from doing business, but I'm just telling you, and we have a big sign on it that says it's free. I reiterate this because we routinely work with fraud teams and routinely work with companies who feel like they have been defrauded by someone who has represented themselves. So please spread the good word for us. So to register in SAM, you need to have at this time what's called a DUNS number. Again, that's free too. If you want to do business with the U.S. government and you need a DUNS number, you do not need to pay Dun & Bradstreet. They have a separate portal in for entities. And again, she pays for that, I pay for that. The U.S. government pays for that on behalf of entities that want to do business with the government. And then you're going to have to provide some core financial data and some core entity data. That's who you are, where you are, who's authorized to represent you. You will have to provide at some point your financial information. The U.S. government, by regulation, says that you are going to be paid for contracts through electronic funds transfer, and all of their contract writing and financial management systems get that information from me. So you're going to have to provide that, not so much for the grant side of the world, but definitely for the contracting side of the world. If you're going to do contracting, you'll be asked to sign your reps and certs, and you'll go through and you'll learn, and that's how we know if you're small or large and what your socioeconomic is. That's how we know that you're a good partner with the U.S. government and you're not using child labor and that you are not supporting combat countries, enemies of the state, normal reps and certs. It's also where then your suspensions and debarments would be listed. So if somebody in the government had said that you were suspended, could be you, could be your company, or debarred from doing business in whole or in part with the government, that's where that would be listed. I am going to not go through all the steps for registers, even though we have slides. We'll be happy to talk to you about it. We have an incredible help desk. If you want to know what you need to do to register, I'll be happy to go through it, but it doesn't seem like a good use of our time right now. So if we could skip to a slide that says new unique entity ID. Keep going. There we go. Melissa, raise your hand. I won't give out her home phone number, but Melissa is the PM for creating a new unique entity identifier. So what do I mean there? So I said a moment ago that to do business with the government, you need to have a DUNS number. Until very recently, when certain companies were called out as providing covered products that we are prohibiting in the U.S., Dun & Bradstreet was the only company that was named by name in the Federal Acquisition Regulations. And it was named by name specifically for this purpose. In 2016, both the Federal Acquisition Regulation and 2 CFR, so over the grants and financial assistance world, were updated. And we updated to unique entity identifier, and Dun & Bradstreet's name was taken out. Why? Because in the federal government, we like competition, right? And so we pulled it out of the FAR, and we ran a competition to have a unique entity identifier in the government. After approximately the end of 2020, I'm talking calendar years, not fiscal years, we will have a new unique entity identifier in the government, and it will not be Dun & Bradstreet. How we get there from here to there, that's going to be Melissa's, that it has been Melissa's life for the last 2 years. So what you need to know about this was one of the things that the committee asked me to come and talk. First thing is, you don't need to do anything. That's the first thing I would like to tell you, the most important thing. You do not need to do anything. If you are currently registered in SAM, and you have a DUNS number with which you do business with the government, you will be assigned a new unique entity identifier. SAM will notify you of the new unique entity identifier when it exists, okay? Our job to do that part. If you're not doing business with the government and you're not registered in SAM, really you got to do nothing, okay? So what happens after December 2020 when we roll this out? So rather than going to a third party, Dun & Bradstreet in this case, or the new company that is providing us the intelligence for this, you will actually come to SAM. So again, a way to consolidate and reduce your burden, not necessarily financial, but obviously your time, and your time is worth probably more than even your dollars, right? So you will come into SAM, you will provide information, and we will actually run and produce the new unique identifier and get that into the system for you, and then share it across government through a complex series of APIs. So I think that's probably the most important thing. There's I would say a lot of consternation. People want to know, what do I need to do? What I would like to tell you is that Melissa back there, Ms. Jones, recently hosted an open industry event. It was recorded, it was online, and we had approximately 800 attendees join us for that event. And it is recorded, it's available online. There is a key site that you should know, and it is gsa.gov//entity ID. Okay? On that site,
Yeah, it's on that last slide. It's the last
Go
slide.
back.
Okay, you gotta give away his whole phone number. You gotta give away her phone number.
All right, I'm looking at a /.
I don't see any slide.
It is gsa.gov/entity ID. Bottom line. Here's another way you do it. Go to gsa.gov. In the search bar, it says unique entity identifier. It's going to send you here all information regarding the transition timing. FAQs. How many FAQs did we just post? 105.
That's scary. That's what I mean.
Right. So the meeting may be, at the meeting, you can imagine someone says, I have to fill out a form, a specific form. We might answer and say, all forms will get updated. But, so about 105 FAQs, as well as the recording, as well as information that you need to know for proceeding. The bottom line is, government, we have a lot of work to do. You guys, nothing. You already have an identifier. You will get a new identifier. You will be able to have your old one and your new one, and the new one is what will go forward into the systems into the future. Fair? As we modernize SAM, there is an opportunity. We are always looking for testers. We have some really big companies that are testers. We have some eeny-weeny tiny little companies that are testers. And when I say eeny-weeny tiny, it's one dude, and he just wants to be able to do his peer reviews for NIH, and he gets paid through registering in SAM. That's eeny, weeny, teeny. Then everything in between that, up to, a small business for IT, we are always looking for testers. We have government testers. Our colleagues in government come and do testing with us. We have small testers and industry partner testers, as well as partners from other walks of life. Think financial institutions, think grant institutions, and things like that. If you would like to test for us, I know I'm giving you a lot of work. I just told you there's 2,000 sources sought out there right now. So you come to new SAM testing at gsa.gov. If you don't remember any of these, you could just come to me and I'll send you to the right person. I absolutely promise I will. As long as you email me. I can promise you that if you telephone me, there's a really good chance I will never hear the message. I just would like to tell you that. I'm very honest up front. I don't check my voicemail. I only check it when somebody says to me, Judith, your voicemail is full. Right? So go to new SAM testing at gsa.gov or come to Judith Sawatsky at gsa.gov and I will get you there. So my key takeaways here is if you want to do business with the government, please come register with SAM. We have a very active help desk. We take 30 to 35,000 incidents, chat, email, telephone, a month. Anthony knows, he oversees a lot of that. And we will help you get registered. We have really good guides up there. We have videos up there, shortcuts up there. We have in GSA an OSBU office ourselves that help people do that and send people to us. Unique entity identifier, let us worry about that. Just keep abreast of what's going on. Anything else? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. So suffice it to say that we are trying to simplify our automated environment, and this is extremely important to us because it makes it easier for you to register. It makes it easier for us to find you when we're looking for entities to support us. So with that, first I want to ask you to please thank these folks. They take a lot of time out of their day, and they really care. And now what I'm going to do is open it up to any questions that you may have. Don't be shy. This is the time. You got an all-star lineup sitting up here. Does it work?
Okay.
All right.
So I just want to back up a little bit first. Say I have a small business and I have never done business with the government. Just want to make sure I have everything clear. I need a DUNS number first, right now, until we get to December 2020. And to do that, I need to go to Dun & Bradstreet, correct? Okay. And then I need to go to SAM to register. Now, my next step is I want to find, Soraya, you said I should know the organization. If I want to come to DHS, I should know the organization that I want to work with. What if I don't know the organization?
So what I generally advise folks is first get familiar with the department that you want to work with, right? Because we all buy different things. Some of us buy many things similar. So what I always suggest, you know, in the world of the web now, you can look up anything. DHS.gov is a great place to go. It gives you a good description of our organization, what our mission is, what are the kinds of things that we're doing, and we have a great button that's called Do Business With, correct? Did I say that correctly? It's called, yeah, and on our website. And it will take you right to all those organizations, all the industry liaisons, all the small business specialists, and it tells you a lot about how to do business with DHS. But I suggest if you go to most federal government websites, HHS.gov, DHS.gov, that first opening page tells you about that department, what mission space they're in, what kinds of things they're doing. So that's the first place to learn. And then certainly going out to Fed Biz Ops, especially if you know what NAICS code, you know, your products or services are in, getting out to Fed Biz Ops, and you don't have to wait till there's a solicitation out there. You can go out to Fed Biz Ops based on your NAICS codes, do some searches, and see the kinds of documents that we post out there, whether it's RFIs, sources sought, or even RFPs. And that also gives you insight into how to do business with the government. And we're not asking you to be an expert when you come and talk to us. It's just have a general feel so that, and I'll give you an example. Somebody came to talk to me one time about geospatial technology that told us debris removal. That's a very focused area. Fortunately, FEMA does some of that kind of work at times, or at least they contract for some of that kind of work. But mostly there are other agencies that really contract for that. So by kind of understanding which agencies do what, it helps you kind of navigate the process.
Just to add to that, suppose you just don't know what to do. We normally send you to the Procurement Technical Acquisition Centers, PTAC for short. And what the PTAC does is they're funded by DOD, and they run out of colleges and universities. And usually they give you the ABCs 1, 2, 3 of federal contracting. Like if you look at, Sarai mentioned FBO, I mean, you go in there, you're like, oh, what is this? Some of it it can be overwhelming, and you have to be ready. And so the PTACs kind of help you get ready with like general information. You know, what is SAM? You know, you may have sat here and listened to it, but then they can give you information about it. We can too, but we kind of start with companies that know a little more than then the PTACs helps you get ready for that. And so there's certain industry events. Say you code yourself, you're a service disabled veteran, or you're a hub zone. You know for a fact that you may qualify for one of those. There are associations out here. Hub Zone Association, a lot of service disabled associations, small business associations. We have a Hub Zone vendor sitting right there who is one of our first source 2 IT contract providers. He's done a great job. He's a Hub Zone company in Florida. And so there are associations that you can go to that'll also give you assistance about, okay, how, you know, I know a little bit about this, but how do I break into federal contracting? Or can you give me, you know, it's a lot of for networking and things like that to occur. But the first stop may be PTAC also. And you can look ptac.org, is it, Tony? Or ptac. If you just put PTAC, Procurement Technical Acquisition Centers, they're all over, they're in every state in the country. Okay? ptac.org, I think, maybe. Yeah, but PTAC, yeah.
And you can Google it. Hey, just to expound on that real fast, the SBA help you out as well, but ultimately, remember, don't go to Dun & Bradstreet for that number. You can get it free by going to sam.gov.
That's right.
That's helpful. And then, Darlene, you also mentioned the vendor outreach sessions. What would I need to prepare to bring to any of those meetings?
Well, the vendor outreach sessions are really, it's a FaceTime with the small business specialist. Often the small business specialist will have detailed information to on some of the procurements and the individual components. Each one of these operational procurement offices have small business specialists in each one of the components. So they are the ones that attend. They work directly for them, and they have a dotted line to me, but they are the ones that attend the vendor outreach sessions. And so we have a whole scheduling system that we use to schedule those 15-minute appointments. I mean, they go like this. So if you go on our website, you can see the next one is mid or in October. And so a week before that, you have to be registered in the system prior. So you could go in now and register for vendor outreach sessions in the future. But a week before the actual session, there is registration for that session. So if you go to our website, it's a week, right, Candace? A week before. Candace Brooks is part of our vendor outreach session team. So if you have questions about vendor outreach, Candace can answer those. So that's really what they are, and our large primes are there too. So the vendor outreach scheduling system allows you to set up sessions with those vendors, the large prime vendors also. Mm-hmm.
And just to add on, we tell companies to come prepared, just to kind of talk about what services, what products you sell, where do you think you fit into the space, and then, because it's really to get you that opportunity to do the meet and greet and know who the players are, and then that way you can follow up with them.
And a good thing for that, just to add on to what Ms. Carrera was saying, you guys can go into acquisition plan and forecast system and you'll see exactly what we have out there. And you can actually print out the items that you want to discuss with those specific agencies or organizations up under us. That'll give you a good opportunity to be able to share your capabilities and ask us questions relative to what we're trying to, seek as a requirement fulfillment. So it's a good opportunity for you.
What side is that on the list? Is that same as Widow?
No, APFS.
APFS.gov.
It's a government, DHS.
So can I give two cheats? These are my favorite two cheats. So if you carry a business card, right, and the name of your company happens to be, we're the company for innovative solutions. And then you go in and you meet with one of these lovely people or one of their colleagues across government and you leave your card with them, the chances are they will have no idea what you do, because the name of your company, while it's lovely, really is not very descriptive of what you do. And remember, they meet a lot of people. So in the government, the way that we classify what we buy is through the NAICS code. It is not the worst thing in the world to put your primary NAICS codes on your business cards, because then when you leave, they're like, oh, that person is in the business of yama, as opposed to innovative solutions can mean a lot of things to us. So that's my, it's really small real estate, probably the cheapest thing. The other thing I always recommend people to do when they're looking about getting in the business of federal contracting is to cheat. There's nothing that stops you from going on FBO and downloading packages that you have no interest in responding to. Learn the packages, learn the sections of the package, learn what contractor, download 10 of them and sit in front of the TV, put them on your lap, read them and say, wow, I never knew they were gonna ask me for this. What do you mean you need to know my professional compensation plan? Do I have a professional compensation plan? It's just me and 6 other people. Turns out I opened 6 of these and 5 of them said I need to know your professional compensation plan. So this is the maybe not the fastest, but it's certainly the easiest, least expensive way that you can help yourself get adequately prepared to filling something out when you really are ready to compete.
Thank you. First off, this is a very informative panel. This is worth coming here, quite frankly. Are there contracts that have been let that are public as an example of best practice that you can refer someone that's new to the federal contracting? Let's say in the category of DOD or Homeland Security. You follow sort of seeing successful models, sort of like
the. See some contracts that have been away. That's why we're suggesting go out and look in Fed Biz Ops, because that'll show you the solicitations that have been done. But the other thing is you can go out to our website to look at our strategically sourced contracts. And I think a lot of agencies now have their strategically sourced contracts published out there. And typically the contracts really do look the same. The difference is whether they're multiple award or single award contracts. But those give you an idea of what's been awarded.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
If someone says, hey, are you going to release a section L&M, every one of us will know what that means. Yeah. Right? So by going through and looking at some of them, the FAR tells us how we have to do our contracting with a little bit of room. What I would tell you is look at the open solicitations or standing solicitations. Once they've been filled out and awarded, you can imagine that the information is procurement sensitive. We're not going to give out or show information that a company responded with. So you got to go to the ones that have not yet been awarded.
And when she's saying section L and M, that's part of the uniform contract format. L is the instructions to you guys to tell you how we want you to submit your proposals, and M is tell you how we're going to evaluate it. But ultimately, that structure that you receive in that solicitation is actually what we're going to use. We'll just convert it over, and the Schedule B, Section B, will have numbers in it.
It's a lot of acronyms.
From our negotiations and different things like that. But like Ms. Correa said, if you go on some of these websites, you know, you can go out there and look at some of the strategic source contracts, and it'll have a lot of that information out there already.
It sounds pretty straightforward. And obviously, backgrounds are commensurate with what you're applying for. Because I know you mentioned Dr. Short, the...
Doctor, you guys...
There you go. Oh. I know Ms. Correa is in charge. Wow. I know she's the boss of bosses. Ms. Correa is the boss of bosses. I get it.
That sounds good.
I'm clear.
Does he work for you?
Congratulations, Dr. Short.
I better hear before I lose my train of thought. But it's your experience and your background, as you pointed out about security clearance. Obviously, if you're applying for highly sensitive procurement opportunities, you want to make sure your background is appropriate. But what is the first step? I mean, the average one of us have never really gone through a top secret security clearance. I mean, we're reading about it now, you know, over the last year or so about people with all this. That's a big subject, right, Hickey?
Right. So before Gary answers that, I want to step you back a little bit. Don't focus too much on knowing what a contract looks like, because it looks a lot like what the solicitation looks like. Right. Just so that you know. And the contract format will be driven by what it is we're trying to award. So whether it's a commercial contract or a more complicated type of contract, that's what's going to drive it. What's important is really understanding the solicitations, what they kind of look like, and what kinds of things we buy, and what are the kinds of questions we ask you. And then I'll let Gary talk a little bit about the clearance process and how a company goes about getting clearance.
So what you'll probably want to do is not start off with the highly classified contracts. Your best bet is to work the unclassified and go that route. And then as you build your teaming relations or potentially work with other companies, try to piggyback off of someone that already has a facility clearance, because it's very expensive to have those clearances and run your company from that standpoint. Yeah, it's a whole lot. So you're better off starting with the unclassified stuff, and then if things pan out and it works through, then you graduate and get into the classified area.
And generally speaking, for classified for security clearances, you can imagine we look at things like financial, criminal record, et cetera. And in fact, on our website, there's a section where we recently hosted what we call Acquisition Innovation Roundtables, where we try to help people better understand the security clearance process, what terms mean, how you go about applying for a clearance. The most important thing to know is that you're not going to get a clearance unless you're actually working or about to work on a contract. Correct. So if you bid on a contract that requires clearances, we actually give you the appropriate forms and the guidance on what to fill out, where to submit it. So, but very important that you know that the things that you're looking at is the financial background, the financial stability of the individual, and you're looking at a lot of the criminal record, the background and employment record. And financials are very important. I like to stress that, because any hiccups there, you get a lot of questions.
Right. My final question, and I'm done. I'm pass the mic on. Do you all marry small companies with primes, or is it just sort of a natural synergy? How does one sort of get under the umbrella of a good prime and get mentored and educated, or help fill that gap? Is that we're on our own with that, or is that typically something that you all suggest?
So that marriage is your call, but what we try to do is facilitate opportunities for you to know who the primes are. So for example, we do identify the prime contractors that we do business with, especially for strategically sourced contracts, where there's always opportunities for small businesses or other companies to team with them. The other thing is you can go out there through the industry associations, as Darlene mentioned, and other vendor outreach sessions that we do, and you have an opportunity to go out and meet the primes. But establishing that relationship is up to you. The government does not marry companies together, but we certainly try to create opportunities and share information to give you opportunities to meet up with those primes. Another reason for telling you to look at solicitations and look at sources sought and stuff like that, we do specify subcontracting opportunities. In other words, we do specify goals. When we do not set aside a contract for a small business, in other words, when large businesses can be the primes, if you will, we do require them to submit what are called subcontracting plans and tell us how much they intend to subcontract and how much of that work is going to go to small businesses. So that's where we're talking about that sometimes, teaming with a larger business so that you can learn the business and get comfortable doing business with the government and kind of get your foot in the door.
Fair enough.
All right.
And you can partner up with a business, and we did say that. I don't know if you caught it or not, and they can sponsor you.
Yes.
Okay, good.
My question had to do with contracts that were associated with disaster response, recovery, mitigation, etc. And I believe there were contracts provided for pre-positioning of resources and things along those lines. Were they single sourced? And if not, are there opportunities for a small business to have a meet and greet or a date with them or something?
There's always opportunities. But our pre-position contracts or advanced contracts, depending on what statute you read, statutorily we're supposed to have them in place prior to disaster season kicking off, and that gives us an opportunity to not be reactive and be a little more able to respond and help sustain a disaster operation. But ultimately, majority of our contracts are multiple award, because we need so many services when it comes to a disaster, and you never know what level it is. And so it's one of those situations that we do have some of them that are set aside for small business, but a lot of them are more set aside for large businesses because the type of work that we ask for from you guys with that pre-position contract. But as we were mentioning earlier, we are always here and can tell you who the contractors are and provide you the opportunity to go in and have that conversation with that contract. That's left up to you, to establish that business arrangement. And if it's something you can help them provide a service for us, then hey, I'm sure they'll bring you on board.
The reason I bring that up is because, as you know, during disasters, there are always opportunities where people are left out, particularly marginal communities. The emergency responders can't get to some of these rural areas. So the challenge then is closing that logistical gap between those who have resources or those within the emergency management community where those resources may be staged, and then having the logistics in place in order to get them to rural areas or to be able to support some of the remote areas that are far enough away from the emergency management centers that there may be delays in which they get services. So that's what I really wanted to talk to you particularly about, because that seems to be a problem that is ongoing and is getting even worse because of the nature of the disaster. So I'd like to follow up with you on that.
Can I make a shameless plug? So I think you might be surprised to learn that enormous amount of the dollars that are spent in disaster response and recovery are not spent by the federal government, but rather by the state and locals and through the grants. So in my shameless plug part, because I'm from GSA, I will say that we run the multiple award schedules. The multiple award schedules, the security and the IT are available to the states and locals at all times. But during disaster recovery and disaster response, all of the schedules are open and the states and locals can use them. So it is very much another way to be of service during disaster response.
So sort of a bottoms-up approach versus a top-down approach in terms of integrating into business.
When a locality is looking for someone who can provide a service, they generally, obviously, would like somebody who is within the locality. That is often a preference, as well as can support that. So through schedules, you're able to identify, hey, I am in Mississippi. Hey, I do provide the following services. I already have a contract in place for them. And yes, I am willing to be called during disaster because I feel like I'm going to be capable of responding.
One other portion of that there is, and I'm not sure whether or not this panel or anyone on this panel addresses those issues, but it has to do with licensing and multi-state licensing for certain services when there are disasters. Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. First of all, my name is Joseph Daniels. I'm president and the CEO of the Jose Group, LLC, and good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My follow-up question was regarding licensing and interstate licensing when there are disasters. For example, where individuals may have, in cases of being doctors, doctors have multi-state licenses and they can practice that way. but very rarely do you find other certified individuals who have the capabilities of being able to offer services in a particular community when there is a disaster. So one of the challenges that I bring forth here is to figure out a way in which multi-state licensing becomes almost automatic during disasters. It would allow for the exchanges of resources within the FEMA region when that transpires. And because I've been on calls where disasters have been so large, I've heard these individuals begin to be concerned about getting not only the physical resources they need, but also the mental health resources they need as well. So it's a two-pronged approach. So.
Absolutely, Mr. Daniels. Well, one thing that when it comes to disasters, there's a lot of bureaucracy associated with the process because, you know, the governor itself is who actually manages emergency operations within its state and its territories, right? Or it can be tribal, depending on what it is. So when it comes to different disastrous situations, when we usually experience certain issues associated with disasters and trying to confront the disaster to manage it and, you know, help the people, be it, you know, mental health or whatever the situation is, like during our Hurricane Maria, we had a huge issue with dialysis patients. So, you know, you have certain license associated with being able to transport patients across different states and different things like that. So one thing that we worked with the governors to do was to actually waive some of the requirements to include like the licensing for the doctors. You know, if they're actually qualified, or should I say a certified doctor through an actual and have license to perform in a specific state, you have some waivers that actually can be put in place to try and mitigate that situation. So what we try and do, each region of ours, we have a regional administrator. We usually have our times to where we sit down with the state and have conversations with them prior to the disaster season kicking off, which is June for us hurricane season. And so we discuss these different type of issues that, you know, impede us from being able to be successful to provide proper disaster response and in the process of mitigating and preparing. These are some of the actions that we take. So it's very convoluted. You know, it's one of those, it's a political issue because you got to remember our governor, he has constituents within his state that, you know, he want to make sure he or she is serving. So if I waive and allow other state, you know, doctors to come in and do whatever, then now my state doctors. So it's a lot to it. It's one of those situations to where, but usually when emergency situations happen, they're very acceptable of, you know, issuing waivers to those situations. But usually we have these conversations prior to the disaster season to try and establish these, you know, processes. Oh, no problem. I got you.
Just to circle back on what Darlene was saying about the PTACs, the Procurement Technical Assistance Centers, the convention is the ptac.org. It is org, and basically the PTACs are affiliated with universities. They're in most states. Some may have several PTACs depending on the size of the states. But for instance, if you live in Maryland, the PTAC is at University of Maryland. If you live in Virginia, you use the PTAC at George Mason University, and the district is Howard University. But as Darlene said, and I think some other members of the panel said, that the PTAC, they offer classes, services. Many of them are free. Some are at a very nominal cost because they're being funded by DOD. They have classes like how to write a proposal, understanding the uniform contract format. So by all means, just take a tour around the PTAC website in the area that you live in and first find it, and then take advantage of those classes. It'll really help you out in being competitive.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? If not, I think there's some time left to do some one-on-ones. We'll let the panelists, I guess, come down from the tables and just kind of distribute themselves around the room, and you can just kind of line up, you know, near whoever you would like to talk to.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.